we are recording. It's Dr. Rob Kiltz here with Kevin, the Visionary. I am so excited and honored to have Kevin here, the Visionary, sharing his energy of why going from a vegan to a carnivore or maybe a near carnivore, you're going to share your ideas and all of this and how you healed so many of your diseases or issues, both in the mind and the body. And open conversation both ways between Kevin the Visionary and Dr. Rob Kiltz. Welcome, Kevin. How are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's really my pleasure. And for so many people out there, they don't know much about you. And maybe you could share a little bit about yourself and how you got to be Kevin the Visionary.
Yeah. So I had a laundry list of health issues. And I started off plant-based. And I saw a documentary years ago called Forks Over Knives. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with that. And I threw everything out, threw the milk out, threw the eggs out. I'm like, I'm done. I'm going all the way in. And then I ended up going back to eating meat and dairy and everything else, later on. And then I began to have some serious health issues. And so a friend of mine suggested that I look into the plant-based, lifestyle again, and I did. And so that's kind of how I ended up plant-based. And so some of the issues that I was dealing with, I had arthritis in my shoulder, lower back pain, fatigue. I was tired all the time. Like I couldn't go on walks without like saying, hey, time out, let's take a break and go back to the car because my back hurt. I had memory lapses, foggy brain fog. I was forgetting a lot. Dizziness, like that was huge. I would be dizzy all the time. And I had ED issues. And the biggest thing that really got my attention was one day I went to the bathroom to urinate, and it was like a crime scene. And when I tell people that, they might think I'm exaggerating, but it was so much blood that came out. I mean, I thought I was bleeding out. I didn't understand anatomy, how the body works and stuff at the time. And so it splattered all over the walls, on the floor, on my legs. It went everywhere, thick, dark chunks of blood. And so that was a scary moment for me. And so I went to the doctor. They did CT scans. They took the camera. They went inside of me, drew blood, and they couldn't find anything. They didn't give me an answer. They sent me home just saying, so two different doctors. One doctor said, sometimes this just happens. That's literally what he told me.
Just happens, right?
The other doctor said, oh, I've seen this before, but you don't have anything to worry about. And I was
blood everywhere, nothing to worry about.
Yep.
All right.
When I began to do my own research, I found out that you're not supposed to, well, first of all, I had blood in my bladder, and you're not supposed to have that amount of blood in your bladder. That means something is really, really wrong. And so I started on the vegan diet, or I should say the plant-based, because I wasn't really vegan. I was plant-based. And pretty much everything went away with the exception of the foggy headedness. The dizziness was still there a little bit. And so I was like, oh, this is the life. I had no ED problems anymore. Everything came back, working normal. But then the memory loss and the memory issues and the mental clarity got worse and worse and worse. And that's where I was introduced to Dr. Shawn.
How long ago was this?
This was about 4 months ago.
Okay. So how long, let's see, where did you grow up and what was your eating habits growing up?
So I was born in Trinidad. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the country, Trinidad and Tobago. And so I grew up eating, chicken, predominantly chicken, beef, and a lot of fruits and vegetables. And then when I came to the US, my diet was terrible. A lot of TV dinners, cereal, just anything, sodas.
How long ago was that you came to the Americas?
When I was 13.
13. Okay. And do you mind sharing your age?
I'm 41 now.
Okay. Young, young,
Yeah.
young. All right. And when you were growing up, or at least when you came to America on the TV dinners and the quick stuff, were you having any physical, emotional, mental issues at the time that you can talk about?
Not that I can think of. I was an athlete. I ran track in high school. And I was pretty good, actually. Good at long jump, triple jump. And I went into the Marine Corps at 17, graduated high
Wow.
school, went into the Marine Corps at 17. And um, when I was about 20, 21, the blood in the urine actually happened at that time.
Wow. Okay.
The first time it happened. And then same thing, went to the doctors. They told me, we don't see anything, nothing to worry about.
And so what was the impetus to become a vegan? What was the real sort of motion that motivated you to go to the plant-based?
So I saw my mom being diabetic, as far back as I can remember. And I would always say to myself, I don't want to shoot insulin and test my blood and prick my finger and all that type of stuff. And so that was one of the biggest motivations. I just didn't want that lifestyle.
And was there any discussion, you think, with your mom about nutrition and the fact that maybe her diet was causing it?
So my mom's a nurse. And you would think that, that education, there's some correlation there, but now that I know what I know, there isn't. They get fed whatever they're told, and that's what they believe.
Well, so tell us a little bit about your conversion from a plant-based to a meat-based diet and how that has changed your health and what your current belief system is and what you're sharing.
Yeah, so I have to tell you the story because I think it's pretty intriguing of how it actually happened, right? So
Please.
it was a Saturday morning. I'm sleeping. I wake up, I roll over, and my cell phone notifications is just going crazy. It's just bing, 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 bing. And I'm like, what is going on? So I look at my phone and I have like 150 notifications, messages, and it's still just bing, bing, bing. I'm like, man. So I'm going through all my messages and I'm trying to, the notifications, I'm trying to find, I said, well, maybe one of my videos went viral. And I'm like, oh man. So I'm trying to find a video and I can't find it. All I see is just people so to me at the time, talking trash. They were like, you don't know what you're talking about. Just, and I'm like, delete, delete, delete. But I still couldn't find a video. And so after searching around, I realized that Dr. Shawn took one of my videos and put it on his page. So the video was actually on his page and not mine. And I was like, who are these people? I had never even heard of Carnivore, right? And so I'm like, these people are crazy, but it's a lot of them, And so after going back and forth, a young lady by the name of Deliberately Cali, she got my attention and she's like, hey, listen, can I please just send you some material for you to take a look at? And I'm like rolling my eyes like, sure, I'll look at it. And so I began to look at what she sent me, and I'm pretty analytical. I think I like to think through things, right? And I had already started studying anatomy and how the body works and the organs and stuff like that. And so the first video she sent was from a young lady by the name of Janelle, who was a vegan for 5.5 years. And she told her story about all the negative impacts and how it affected her body negatively. And I'm saying to myself, as I'm watching her video, I'm like, well, I'm experiencing this. I'm experiencing this. And then she sent me some other material that I looked at. And by the end of all of it, I said to myself, if I keep going down this path, I'm in trouble.
So you were posting mostly as vegan or plant-based material previously, is that right?
Correct.
And so Shawn used your video as a remix,
Mhm.
and it went viral uh, from Shawn's stuff, and I think that's where I first saw you also and
Oh,
got to know you. Absolutely. I think we were on a video at someone's live at one point, and just listening and sharing thoughts and ideas, but listening and honestly honoring each person in the conversation, which I think is good. So tell us a little bit more what happened after she sent you all these things on maybe an opposite approach.
yeah. So that was, I want to say, yeah, okay. So it was a Saturday. And so I started looking at the stuff immediately. And I think I spent Sunday like mentally thinking about what just happened. That moment where you're like, I have a decision to make. And so I went through the weekend just like, oh, man, having to come out and say, listen, I was wrong. I think I'm wrong. I'm going to try this. And, you could be mad, you could be upset, but I think I have to do what's right. And so I decided to put myself on a 30-day meat. Um, I don't think I called it a challenge. I just said eating meat and dairy for 30 days. And when I first started, my brain was like, hey, listen, whatever you just did, you need to keep doing it. The energy came back, the mental clarity started sharpening. And I'm like, okay, something's different. I even felt physically stronger. And so after my 30 days, I decided to keep going. And so that led us all the way up to here.
And this was how many months ago?
This was in July, I believe, either June or July.
Just this year. And how long had you been focusing on a plant-based diet?
So I went plant-based twice. The first time it was for about 2.5 years, and then the second time for about 2.5 years.
What leads someone to do it for a little bit and then stop?
So for me, had I not ran into Dr. Shawn, I would have kept on going. I think that some people, well, so you have different types of people. You have some people that you can call them quitters, right? Where they'll try something and they're not doing it because they've made it up in their mind that they're going to do it. They're just doing it because they want to just try it, right? And then you have people who make these things up in their mind and they just go for it. And so I think that's the difference between people who start something and just kind of like, I'm going to go back to doing what I'm doing.
It's easy to just stay where I was. This is too hard, but yet it feels good for some time, but the attraction to the other stuff is powerful.
Yes.
Well, so many people claim on plant-based they feel great. And is that a psychological feeling, but they're ignoring the physical stuff? What do you think is going on there?
No, so for me, and I've heard this from a lot of other people. So my experience with plant-based is you do feel great. You feel great in the beginning because you're coming off of all the ultra processed foods, the processed foods. You're fasting a lot. And so we know now that when you eat plants predominantly, it's like fasting with a little bit of nutrients. And so you feel great in the beginning, but over time, you're hungry all the time, you're tired, your brain is like all over the place. So I think, I have a thing that I say now is um, there's a negative long-term effects of a plant-based and vegan diet. And so that's the approach that I'm starting to take now is where, yeah, you can fast, you can eat if you want to eat plants and vegetables for a week or so, you can do that. But if you think you're going to do this for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and be healthy, you got another thing coming.
What do you think of the diseases or the things are people are challenged with that are the negatives of a plant-based diet?
Well, I mean, I think it's logically when you understand how the body works and when you understand how plants work, you understand that those things are bound to happen because, it's like trying to mix oil and water. There's
Mm.
certain things that chemically that plants does. There's certain things that the body needs as far as nutrients, and when you don't get the nutrients that you need from the body or to the body, it starts to be affected in a negative way.
So you had bladder bleeding. I had bladder bleeding. I had bowel bleeding. I had kidney stones, arthritis, psoriasis, migraines, ADHD, OCD, depression, anxiety, fear, and worry, and brain fog all the time. Would you list those out as basically plant-based disorders?
I think there is a combination of plant-based and ultra-processed foods or processed foods. Um, from my experience, before I became plant-based, I was experiencing some of those things. And now I understand it's the oils, the seed oils and the nuts and the grains and the sodas and the energy drinks. I drank energy drinks for a while back when I was in my early 20s. And so I think it's a combination of all of those things that affect the body in a negative way.
What does a typical daily nutrition look like for you today?
So now I eat probably 90% uh, meat and dairy. So I'll have like maybe 3 to 4 scrambled eggs in the morning with some steak. And for lunch, I might have some chicken or steak. And then for dinner, it all depends. I might have some steak with some milk. And I use duck fat now. I'm in love with duck fat. I just found it. I've been looking for it for a while, trying to find the right one. And I just found one that's really good. So now I'm doing a lot of duck fat and tallow.
Those are really good. And what was your typical meal like when you were a plant-based eater?
Oh, it was a joke. So I would convince myself that, I would fast in the morning, and then I would juice a lot. I would get a lot of, berries and fruits and stuff, juice, and then I would have like some granola or cereal with milk, almond milk, right? And we know there's no
It's
such thing as milk if it's not coming from a mammal.
right.
And then for lunch, I might go out and get a burrito, with no meat. And I ate a lot of rice and pastas and stuff like that, and a lot of lettuce and spinach and kale, a lot of vegetables.
So you have a new book coming out. Can you tell us a little bit about that, your motivation, and what your hopes and aspirations are in sharing that with the world?
Yeah, thanks for mentioning it. So the book is called How to Instantly Improve Your Health. And so my goal is to provide a simple blueprint for people who are looking to, one, improve their health, for people who are on a plant-based or vegan diet that have health issues coming off of or looking for answers or reasons why they've developed some of the things that they've developed. And so my goal is, to share that and to make it as simple as possible for anyone looking for answers or anyone looking to share this with someone else. Because a lot of times, if we're not confident enough, or if we don't have all the or enough information to share, we tend to say, well, I'm not going to say anything because I don't know enough. So I provided something where you can say, hey, check this small book out. It's like 110 pages or something like that. It's very small. The print is big enough to where you don't feel overwhelmed, and it's an easy read.
Simple.
Simple.
Simple is the way. What are your thoughts on dairy and milk products? I know for some they stray away from it. Do you think some are more capable of tolerating it than others? And how do you feel?
Yeah, I've never had an issue with dairy. I shied away from it for a while, even before I was plant-based. But now I'm drinking unpasteurized dairy, and it's like a game changer for me personally. There's a local farm here, and the taste, you can taste the fat and the goodness in the milk.
So raw, real milk from a cow, no pasteurization, no separation. You're getting what mother's milk is meant to be.
Yes. And I can tell the difference for me. So I think one, some people have a problem with dairy because they're drinking pasteurized dairy. Now, some people have said that they've tried the unpasteurized and they still have issues. So I don't think it's necessarily for everyone, but I do think that we need to incorporate butter at least.
And the same thing with raw butter from the same farm. Is that
Um,
correct?
so I go back and forth. So I do get some from the farm, and then I get some from some Kerrygold from the store.
Got it. Got it. Got it. And now you've been doing social media in the plant-based arena for how long?
I want to say a year. It was roughly a year.
And so what's your aspirations, intentions, and future dream of what your art is about today?
My future dream is to be on a stage, multiple stages, and to continue to, tell about the understanding of nutrition and what real nutrition is now that I have a better understanding of how the body works and how we're supposed to be, or what is supposed to be nutrition versus what we've been told. And so I would love to, to keep going, to keep doing what I'm doing, but just to grow. And my ultimate desire is to break through into the melanated community. Um, for the most part, a lot of times when I'm introduced to someone currently in the melanated community, they think I'm a wacko. They think I don't know what I'm talking about because they've been brainwashed by these so-called gurus and social media that's pushing the plant-based and vegan diet. And so you see me make videos every now and then of a particular person, and I'll do a remix or I'll record it and talk over it. And the reason being is that's the individual that convinced me that plant-based was a lifestyle. And he speaks a lot of truth, but it's mixed with lies. And so you have to call it what it is. If something's a lie, it's just a lie. You can't say, well, he's kind of sort of telling, no, it's a lie. You can't say meat rots in the colon and meat doesn't process through the body and meat goes straight through the body. And you can't just say that all the body needs is fructose and glucose. That's a lie. So
Well, it I've never seen meat in the toilet.
nope.
And so why are we, I guess even the doctors, I mean, again, the doctors are taught the fruits and vegetables, seeds and nuts are good for you, 3 to 6 meals a day, and lean meat, but no red meat. And yet, when I went completely carnivore nearly 12 years ago, and paleo, keto, and Atkins for 20 years total, I'm like, well, why are we still telling the same story when all we're doing is getting sicker and sicker and sicker? And you went to your doctors and they're kind of like, oh, blood in your urine. And for me, blood in my stool. Oh, it's okay. But it's not okay, is it?
Nope.
And so, how do we wake up the medical community, the doctors, the nurses, like your mom? Again, my sister died of diabetes. And I can tell you the simple answer was, gee, don't eat plants. What are we going to do, Kevin, the visionary?
I think we got to just keep doing what we're currently doing now. So I had an aha moment the other day. I was making, I'm in the process of creating a course to go along with my book. And I was doing the last video for the course and I had an aha moment. And the aha moment was we should be getting the bulk of our nutrients from our small intestines and not our colon. And I was like, whoa, you know what? That's right. When you think about the foods that bypass the small intestines and go straight to the colon is all the colon does is squeeze, compacts, and draw out just a little bit, whatever's left over. You get the leftovers from the colon, and everything else comes right out of you. So if we're relying on getting the bulk of our nutrients from the colon, that's why we're malnourished. That's why we're nutrient deficient, because the bulk of our nutrients should be coming from the small intestines.
What's your thoughts on did we evolve as meat eaters or plant eaters thousands or millions of years ago?
So I've kind of been back and forth on that. I've heard and read different theories. And so now that I understand what I understand, I have to use common logic, right? And I think that there were times, so meat is at an abundance right now. We can go to the grocery store, we can go to the farm, and we can get it at the drop of a dime. Back then, you know, there was a lot more hunting and gathering. And so they probably fasted a lot more because you couldn't, and then if you had livestock, you couldn't just eat up all your livestock and then there's no waiting period. Then what? You wouldn't have anything, right? So I think we ate less meat back then, but it wasn't because we're supposed to eat less meat. It was just because of the way things were. And so they might have threw some fruit in there and definitely not the vegetables we eat today. And so that's kind of where I'm at right now. That could possibly change.
Well, the important thing I'm gathering from you is the open-mindedness and ability to change rather than being stuck on one thought and idea, which is one of the things modern medicine, in my opinion, seems to be stuck on. It's this way, and that's it. And we doctors, we scientists need to be open to the possibility that the actual thing we recommend might be the cause of all disease, which is a plant-based, low animal fat diet.
Yep.
That's it. It's sort of like we can go like this and be done with this in about 5 minutes, and then we can go play basketball or baseball or something like that and go have some fun. And yet here we are working to convince the world that a meat-based nutrition is the proper human diet, as my good friend Ken Berry says. And Maria Emmerich, if you haven't looked at Maria Emmerich, she's amazing. She taught me keto after I was paleo, and then I went on to carnivore, and then she wrote a book on carnivore because we're talking about it and we're sharing the same thing, and she's a hunter.
Oh, wow.
And my sense is true. Hunting was not easy. We evolved on being hunters and eating the what do we call it? The nose to tail. We ate the core, the organ meats and everything. And so maybe you could comment a little bit about organ meats in your recommended nutrition. I know you have something in your new book and on ruminants and how important they are.
Yeah. So ruminant animals is something that I knew about, but didn't think anything of it, right? And so once again, using common logic, right? Once you understand, I think most people understand what a ruminant is, or at least they've heard of it, right?
Right.
And so, we know that a ruminant animal has 4 stomachs, and it's a process to get that plant from the first stomach to the last stomach. It's a long process. And so the human body doesn't have the capabilities to process foods the way a ruminant animal does. And so, that was one of the reasons why I took the time to highlight that, because I want people to think, right? I want you to think about the fact that you've been told plants is what you need, but I'm telling you, and then science is telling you, and literature is telling you that plants can't process in the body the way a cow's body processes it. And so a cow can eat grass all day, no grain, and grow to be 15, 12, 1,000 pounds, no problem. But we can't do that. We eat plants and we lose weight. And so, that's the idea behind that concept.
Because if we ate just raw plants, just eat raw plants, fruits and vegetables, raw, no cooking, what do we look like? What happens to us?
You lose a lot of weight. You lose a lot of fats, and fats are very important for the brain, for the cells. You lose mental clarity. You start forgetting stuff. You become infertile. There's a lot of negative connotations to just eating plants alone.
But then when we cook the plants, do you think that helped us absorb a little bit more of the nutrients compared to the raw?
I think it depends a little bit, maybe. I think it depends on how you look at it, right? Because even though you're cooking, let's say you take kale or spinach, right? Even though you're cooking it, it still has a cell wall there. So that's why when you look up fiber, it tells you the definition of fiber is that, when it comes to the body, fiber goes relatively undigested in the body. Why? Because there's something called a cell wall in a plant, and the human body does not have the ability to penetrate the cell wall. And that's the difference between how ruminant animals can grow and humans shrink, because all the nutrients is in the cell wall. And so if we can't penetrate the cell wall, then
you can't get them.
You can't.
And the plants, any thoughts on the poisons that plants make that may be harmful to us, or the oxalates and phytates, the lectins? All these things are potentially likely damaging. And I know I had stomach issues and kidney stones, and I come to find out that all the healthy food I was eating is unhealthy food.
Yeah. When I was on a plant-based diet, I was thirsty all the time. I didn't know why. I thought it was just, life, right? But I'm realizing now those plants, like you said, have chemicals, and these chemicals affect the body in a negative way. My stomach would hurt sometimes, and I wouldn't know why. You have effects like nausea, upset stomach, hives. Different people's body reacts differently, right? And so there's a compound or a chemical called solanine that's in nightshades, and I talk a little bit about that in my book. That's toxic. And you have something called dark nightshades, which are highly toxic. And so we're eating these things, not understanding that we're harming ourselves and our body. The reaction is our body saying, hey, listen, whatever you just gave me, something's not right.
So the diseases we suffer from, some people die fast, other people die slow. Some people don't know they're sick, but they die quickly. Heart disease, strokes, cancers, and things like that. And the real mission here for you and I and all those people in the health and wellness space, especially in the keto carnivore space, and recognizing that, gee, if I change my diet, I might get better and not need a doctor or drug or dissection. How do we better get the message out there?
I think we need, so this community is awesome, right? Because, and I think that's key too, community. Realizing that I don't have to be better than you, you don't have to be better than me. We don't have to compete against each other. But I think as we grow as a community and our voice becomes larger, I think that kind of will begin to get other people's attention. So I think it's just a matter of doing what we're currently doing and staying consistent and making sense of what we're doing.
And the stories that we're sharing of the examples of those that have suffered and then those that have strengthened and healed through the keto carnivore fasting space is like magical. I mean, again, as a fertility physician, I trained in internal medicine a little bit and immunology, and now I understand that our nutrition is critical, but it is completely opposite of what we in Western medicine are generally telling our communities.
I agree. You're absolutely right.
Tell us a little bit about exercise and your thoughts on physical work and how what you think it where does it belong in our health and wellness toolbox.
I think it's very important to exercise. It's also very important to do resistance training. I'm learning now that the greater amount of muscle you have as you age, the healthier your body will be. Um, that never, I never even thought about that, right? I just thought about being healthy as far as on the inside and your organs and stuff like that, but never correlating the fact that lifting weights, resistance is very important. So I'm currently going to the gym about 4 times a week, and I'm trying to put on, gain weight for the first time in years. I neglected my body once I got out the Marine Corps. I stayed active maybe for about 5 years, and then I kind of quit. And so now I am reactivating my athleticism and starting to go to the gym, be more active, and try to put on some muscle. I think it's very important.
Lift weights every day, but the heaviest weight we lift is our mental weight, right? And how do we keep moving to and seeing the thing we wish it to be as if it is, and having faith every day. So what's that?
I said absolutely.
And tell us maybe a little bit about spiritual journey. Uh, any thoughts on spirituality, on faith, and bringing the community together?
Yeah, I think that when you look at the culture of different cultures as far as music, entertainment, what we watch on TV, there's a lot of negativity and there's a lot of, I'll just say, foolishness, right? We'll just categorize it as foolishness out there. And if we're not careful as individuals, we allow certain things to frame our thoughts in our minds, right? Our goals and our aspirations and our desires. And so I personally have made a commitment to focus on improving my mental capacity, improving my faith, improving my belief, improving on staying consistent and allowing only positive vibes. I'm going to call it positive vibes into my life. And so I think faith is very important. I think belief is very important. I think that positivity is very important. And all of those are key to succeeding. And it doesn't have to be whether it's a business, whether it's a goal as far as in weight loss, as far as in health, staying positive and surrounding yourself with uplifting, positive, faithful, or faith-based uh, things, I think is very important.
Do you have any daily particular practices or readings that you focus on?
Yeah, I journal a lot and I meditate. Most mornings I meditate, journal. I actually do affirmations. And so I'll read what I've written down back to myself. And I do a lot of thinking. I read a book called Think and Grow Rich. And I think we get boggled down by the rich part. Some people focus on the rich part, but it's not, for me, it's not so much about rich monetarily, but it's rich mentally. It's rich when it comes to having aspirations. But all we have to do is think. When you sit back and you analyze, right? every single thing, like the room you're in right now, the room I'm in right now, when you're driving down the road, when you're at work, every single thing that you see outside of nature came out of the mind of an individual. That's like when you really think about that, that's really extreme to think that every single thing on planet Earth outside of nature came out of the mind of an individual. That's grand.
Do you have any particular books? You mentioned Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Any other books that you have read that have helped you on this journey?
Yes, there's one called The Go Giver. That is a really good book.
The
The Go Giver.
Go Giver.
The Go Giver. Yes.
All right. I haven't read that one.
I think you will be highly, highly pleased by reading The Go Giver. There's another one called You Are a Badass.
Yeah.
That's a really good book. There's quite a few of them. Oh, The Power of the Subconscious Mind. I think that's number one. Have you heard that one?
Yes. Yes. I mean, the Napoleon Hill's books, all of them are fantastic. And the more we listen, the more we read, the more we write, the more we meditate, the more masterful we'll see life. Because as you said, the mind is the master creator of the universe. There's nothing out there. We're either living in our misery or our mastery. We could pick it every day, right?
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about your workout community. I want to learn a little bit more about how important the daily or a few days a week at least of going to the work in or workout room or the motion studio, and what type of motivation you get with working with people there.
So right now I don't really have a team or a group of, I go by myself.
But are there people in the gym? Are you there alone?
No, yeah, there's definitely people there. I do a lot of, I have my headphones in. I do a lot of listening to podcasts and different things like that. But for me, currently, my motivation comes from the knowledge and the understanding and the confidence that I've gained through this, carnivore meat-based diet. The mental clarity. I'm way sharper than I was 3 months ago. The energy, the confidence, my testosterone levels have increased. There's so much difference now. And so for me, I walk in the gym with confidence because I know, I understand and I know where my future is. And so when I'm working out, I'm thinking about a year from now. You see, I'm projecting that far out. And so that's kind of, my day to day. I go about 4 to 5 times a week. Just depends on my schedule and stuff like that. And I'm loving it.
So you got what you put in the mind, what you put in the mouth, and then the motion of the body and in your daily or every other day doing in the gym. Would you categorize those as which is the most important?
Well, the most important, I think, is what you put in the mouth. And I know it depends on who you talk to. They might say, no, the mind is better, right? But for me, when I was putting something different, my mind was not where it is today. Now, I still was listening to positivity. I still was thinking. I still was doing all the things that I mentioned. But the mental clarity was off. The fatigue and the dizzy spells, that had me off balance. But now that I'm eating the way I'm eating, my mental clarity has improved. My fatigue has gone away. The dizzy spells are gone. And so I think the key is what you put in the mouth will improve or enhance the brain and the physical.
So that's a very good point, because I can say for myself, I've worked on positivity for many years, but it was when I went carnivore that it was the game changer, because ultimately heroin, cocaine, marijuana, nicotine, and caffeine come from plants. None of them are good for you. And so ultimately, the plant chemicals and the plants ferment in the gut. Fermentation makes alcohol. So you're eating a plant based diet, you're healthy, you don't drink alcohol, but you're making it. And so ultimately, the brain fog and all the manipulation by the plants is controlling us. When we eat the meat, the fatty meat, we suddenly begin like, whoa, I've never felt so good. I've never looked so good. I've never, like, you're smiling all the time, even when it's hard. Even when you're maybe not even feeling the greatest, you're still smiling.
Yep. And it's amazing, you know, like you said, I've always been a positive person. And I try my hardest to stay away from, negative people, negativity and stuff like that. But like you said, now I'm smiling all the time. People are like, man, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. Where are you getting all this energy from? I haven't had my coffee yet. I'm like, well, I don't need it because, my brain is okay.
Well, I've been off coffee now for 4 months. I love the taste, but I realized that, okay, I can do this and done. Done. I rarely drink alcohol, sip maybe two or three in a social gathering, but mostly it's the jing of the glass. But I'm finding how we really, what do you need? You need air, you need fat, you need protein, and you need some water, and you need salt. What's your thoughts on salt?
Yeah. So, I'm going to say, I'm not going to say we, but I think I can say we. A lot of us have been, you know, tricked into believing that, and I think I heard you say this morning on your live, that the sodium is the problem, but it wasn't the sodium. It was all the other stuff that we were eating, and they lumped it in with the sodium. And so I definitely think you need the minerals from the salt because our body needs those key minerals to produce optimal, cell health and optimal health overall.
What's your thoughts on changes in bowel habits on the carnivore? It's like, oh my God, I'm constipated. I don't poop very often anymore. A little more blood for me, and I don't use toilet paper of any significance anymore. Is that a bad thing?
No, if we've been used to going to the bathroom so much because it's like what I said earlier. If you focus on eating foods that get absorbed from the small intestines, you're not going to have that much waste because the food is actually being absorbed. And so you go to the bathroom less. And when you do go, it's not that much because there's nothing but bile and whatever else left over, the little bit of the mesh that's left over. And so you don't have a whole lot to go. But when you eat plants, none of it gets absorbed, and so you're going to the bathroom 3 4 times a day. I heard a plant-based guru said that you should be going to the bathroom at least 4 times a day. That's a problem.
So we're being taught, brainwashed, to shove food down your gullet like a goose 3 to 6 times a day in order to keep your bowels moving. Yet, if you don't eat for 3 to 6 days, um, you can't hold it back if it's filling up the colon. And fiber ferments. I call it fiber is the fuel for fermentation, which basically again makes heat, alcohol, aldehydes, and gas, and it's all deadly and the cause of cancer. We need to stop eating fruit, fiber, vegetables of any significance or frequency and eat like a lion fatty meat.
Yeah, I agree. And then we don't realize how small the colon is, right? And so if you're eating all those foods that bypass the small intestines, which is long, right? And everything is compact into the colon. Yeah, that's why you're going to the bathroom 4 times because there's not that much room to hold all the stuff that you're eating.
I grew up on antacids, anti migraines, anti-inflammatories, all for years. And after I did Carnivore, I didn't realize until I looked in my bag one day and I said, I haven't touched those drugs in 2 years.
Wow.
It's like, it's phenomenal. It's outrageously radical. And as you're saying, your energy is better, your mind is better. You're able to master the universe as we're meant to, but finding ways to help others, that's really key.
Yes, sir. And there's this big push now on spirituality from the standpoint of ancestral, getting back to the ancestors and, getting in touch with your higher self. I've been in touch with my higher self more now, eating the way I eat than ever before. And it's the opposite of everything that I've been taught.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that when you feel great, you recognize the words and how powerful they are, and you focus on the positive, the good words, the good news, you're bringing that in. Again, whatever your religion, non-religion, spirituality, a belief in God and positivity really unfolds a better life. And I'm seeing it, Kevin, the visionary, in you in so many ways. And so grateful to have you here today. What other thoughts and ideas maybe haven't we brought to the table yet?
Well, I have a question for you.
All right.
So can you tell me, when was that moment in your life when you realized, as a medical doctor, right? What was that experience like when you realized, you know what, everything that I've learned, maybe you can remember exactly where you were at, right? When you had to make that decision to say, all of this is nonsense, and I have to change what I believe and tell others that I'm taking this step. Like, what was that like?
Well, about 20 years ago, I started integrating Eastern medicine, meditation, prayer, acupuncture into health and wellness in my medical practice, because much of what I was doing wasn't working, and we had to find a way to help people stay the course. And so reduce the anxiety, fear, and worry through meditation, prayer, yoga, acupuncture, Tai Chi, all those things came to play. I wrote a book on daily intentions, daily inspirations. And 20 years ago, I created a website with a friend, Carrie, called Mind, Body, Smile. And so I believe that standard medicine, along with a little bit of Eastern medicine, will help so many people. And diet didn't really matter. And suddenly, a number of my patients were getting pregnant on something called paleo diet. I was like, well, you got pregnant. What did you do? Well, I did paleo diet. And I'm like, well, what is that? And so I can remember about 15 years ago, maybe a little bit more than that, the clients that I cared for were beginning to introduce me to a different nutrition called paleo. I'd already been in Atkins for weight loss, but I didn't realize that there was something more than weight loss that was critical. And paleo was my sort of window to the world of keto, carnivore, fasting. And I always focused on faith, but I've integrated in a way that I think is the most powerful. So my patients in my fertility world were teaching me that maybe nutrition is important. And so I went down the rabbit hole of reading, Googling, all sorts of papers, and I'm finding out that ultimately the Western world of nutrition is a lie. Now, it's cognitive dissonance. If you believe it to be true, you're not lying. But in reality, we say we don't know the cause of disease. I'm like, well, we don't know the cause of disease, but there must be a cause of disease. It just doesn't happen. And so the question I came up with was, is it possible that what we recommend as healthy actually is hurting us?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I'm really focused on. My belief is that the healthy lifestyle of a plant-based, low animal fat, 3 to 6 meals a day, and excessive exercise is actually the cause of disease. And so if we can inspire more people in the vision, and inspiring each and every human being to be their own advocate. Really, I'm not your doctor. I'm a doctor that's sharing knowledge and information. It's up to you to do the experiments on yourself, but learn from others. And that's what is really so important and critical in this world today because of Dr. Google. Dr. Kevin and Dr. Kiltz can share ideas of health and wellness, and we may heal and help as many people. And basically, what are we doing? We're sharing words and knowledge and an example that people don't need a doctor, a drug, or a dissection, except in an emergency or when something happens that, we're like, oh my God, that it does happen. Modern medicine is great, by the way. I practice and I help people. But the number one thing I want to help people do is focus on faith, fertile fatty foods, 1 meal a day. And as you said, do some resistance work, whether it's mental resistance or physical resistance. Get up every day and do something and learn something you didn't believe in.
Absolutely. So, that's really, one of the biggest things that I kind of wanted to get from you, just to understand how that transition worked. What about when did you have to tell your colleagues or people that you were close to? What was that like?
Well, I just began to write and blog and share. And then a lot of people would stop coming to me. Some people would stop referring to me. Some people told me I'm going to get in trouble. I was reported to the state board, and the hospital came to me and said, don't talk about this to the medical students. And so I became a doctor. I grew up in LA, kicked out of school in a gang, couldn't read. My father was in jail. I grew up on the streets in some ways. Amazing parents. Ultimately, love and family and connection were critical, but I struggled to become a doctor. I became a doctor. And my single leading purpose of life is to help people heal and be healthy. And if I can help you do that without me, that's even the very best way. So I do know it. People kind of go like, but Jesus Christ shared a story. Muhammad, Moses, Abraham, Lao Tzu, Buddha, many of the sages and the prophets of the world to share the word of God were ultimately crucified. And so I can't think if it's any different today than yesterday. You're going to feel the pain. You're going to feel it. But when you know something to be so magical, you will risk everything to give something to everyone that is so amazing that, again, whether you're a vegan, vegetarian, Mediterranean, pescatarian, or carnivorian, there are some simple things you can do. Eat once a day, add the fat, and have faith and never give up. That's really the thing that I can tell my 41-year young friend, 66-year young friend, and we're all young, and we're all born to die, and you need food in order to survive. And again, whatever you have today is good, but maybe there are some different things that we can do. The dictators of the world feed the masses mush, but the dictators eat the meat. The 5% eat meat to be the masters, and they feed the 95% plants. And plants are addictive, domesticating, deadly, and I'd say throw them out, give them to the herbivores, eat the herbivore, but we honor all life forms. This is not, we don't love killing kale or killing a cow. No one loves that. But if you want to eat kale and think you're eating a healthy diet for a human, you're mistaken. You got to eat steak. And I stake my life on this one. But yeah, you too, as a vegan becoming a carnivorian. I mean, what was that like?
Tough, extreme, but my body is thanking me for it.
The only way to build muscles is lift heavy weights. The only way to build the mind is listen and learn from others that have suffered. Suffering is strengthening. If you don't suffer, you're just watching TV. But you want to be making TV, not watching TV.
Correct. I was listening to a podcast from these two guys, and this one was about business and stuff like that. And they were talking about how, they made a certain amount of money in their business, and they decided to pay for a coaching program, and it was like $55,000. And they were super excited. They were like, yeah, the people that they were getting coaching from were multimillionaires. And so in their mind, they're like, yeah, we're going to go in here. We're going to get all this high level information. We're going to take our business to the next level. And they get there, and these millionaires and billionaires are talking about nutrition. They're talking about working out in the morning. They're talking about meditation and taking care of your body. And they're like, wait a minute, this is this is not what we thought we were going to be getting. And so what they got out of that is that you need to treat your body the same way a professional athlete treats their body. And if you want to be successful at anything, it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't necessarily have to be about money. You have to take care of yourself. And so I just thought about that just now when you were, saying what you were saying.
Yeah, look at I read, listen. I've gone to Tony Robbins, Jack Canfield. I've been to all these things, and their books. Just read the books. Go to the library. Read voraciously. Listen voraciously. Now it's all look at Google, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Plenty of people want to share the story, and there's some. Listen, you gotta pay to prosper in the mission in some ways, right? Life is not free. You're born. What are you going to go to do something to grow with that? And so I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I think I read the book, and I'm always reading. And sometimes you have to read something you don't believe in order to learn something. You're like, whoa, wow. And for me, I grew up Christian, Catholic. I became an atheist. And then I went through the whole spiritual journey, Buddhism, Taoism, Hinduism, Judaism, Christianity, Muslim, all of them. And I basically learned they're all the same. It's all a belief in God. And all you need to do is look in the mirror, right?
Yep.
Look in the mirror. And that's where I think we're again, these devices now, again, between YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, whatever it is, I stay away from the negative stuff. I always go to the positive. If someone's complaining about this or that, even being a vegan or vegetarian or Mediterranean or carnivore, I want to listen and learn the positives. Okay, as a vegan, vegetarian, Mediterranean, what can I do even where I'm at, right? And there are some things we can all do that fast for a week. Oh my God, amazing. It's just an amazing thing that we're learning together.
Yeah, definitely. So me being transparent, I don't fast as much as I used to. And it's, I hear you talk about it all the time, and I know that I need to start back.
Well, okay. I work to do 23 hours of fasting and 1 hour of feasting every day. Now, I talk the talk. I don't always walk the walk, but I don't chastise myself or tell anyone, oh my God. I will have a piece of chocolate from time to time. I will have a little bit of my leftover steak or ribeye or some salami, but I don't sit down ever for 3 meals. I have one meal, and I'm usually standing up eating it because I love it that way. But I would say to you, the more you tell the story, the body will follow. That's what I think is really important in this. I work to do a 2-day fast once a week. I don't do it every week. I work to do a 3-day fast every month. I don't do it every month, but because we're humans, we're all imperfect. But I really believe that fasting is important. If you're sick, don't eat. Don't eat. And if you're going to have something, maybe some bone broth or some butter. But really, feeding with vegetables is like feeding the microbes that are going to like make you sicker. So I'm transparent too, by the way, Kevin. We all need to be. Do I eat cookie, cake, or ice cream from time to time? Do I have some French fries? But I am a carnivore. 95% of what I do is steak, steak, steak. That's what I believe is the healthiest thing you can do.
Yeah, I'm seeing that now. So yeah, I appreciate that.
And we're humans sharing a story. Tell us where all of those that want to follow Kevin the Visionary can find you.
So I'm predominantly on Instagram at Kevin the Visionary. Um, one of the I's has a number one in it, so it's Kevin, TheVis 1 ONARY. So, but if you type in Kevin the Visionary, I'm sure you'll see my happy face on there. And you can also check me out at kevinthevisionary.com. And that's exactly the way it's spelled, Kevin the Visionary. And you can check out my book at kevinthevisionary.com.
And tell us the name of your book again.
It's called How to Instantly Improve Your Health. Why misinformation and nutrient deficiency is making us sick.
Absolutely. Well, we really, really appreciate you sharing your story. We're looking forward to many, many stories to come and inspiration of all in this world. So, Kevin, God bless you. Thank you so much, The Visionary.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me. Bye.